everybody, this is Jason, and I'm over here at the Fort Bend Children's Discovery Center at the Science Station to do a really cool activity for you called DNA Model. Really cool stuff over here. It all looks good, right? And this really fun activity is being brought to you by May W. Tape, DDS, Pediatric Dentistry, and Gulf Coast Medical Foundation. Let's go ahead and talk about DNA really quickly. Some of you may remember that a couple months ago, I extracted DNA from some wheat germ. And when I pulled that lovely DNA out, know what it looked like? It looked like a big pile of snot. It looked like a big wad of gum, if you will. It did not look like what DNA looks like because I didn't have a very powerful microscope to zoom in on the DNA to see what it looks like. That's why most of us make DNA models. Now, I have two DNA models here. I have one very simple one that I'll explain in a moment, and I have another little bit more complex one that I'm going to show you at the end because it does some cool things that this one cannot do. But if you look at them like this together side by side, they look very similar. I'm going to put this one down and I'm going to talk about this one. First of all, what is DNA? It is deoxyribonucleic acid, and it is one of the 4 essential macromolecules needed for life. What are the other 3? It's stuff you eat. It is lipids, which are fats, it is proteins, and it is carbohydrates. If you have all those 4 things, you're good to go. Now, I gotta mention one thing. DNA is not the only nucleic acid macromolecule. There is also RNA. But we'll talk about RNA at a different time. Now, when you look at this DNA model I have right here, I have 2 craft sticks glued to a sheet of yellow cardstock. It's pretty simple. But what's important is what's on the craft sticks. If you look really carefully, you'll see these little X's with dots on each craft stick, and you'll see a pentagon shape on each craft stick, and they look connected, and they look like they're moving down in a ladder. You guys got that? Can you see that? All right, very cool. Now, let me explain what that means. These little X's right here with these dots are on them, that's called a phosphate. And these pentagon-shaped things are sugars. So the backbone of DNA is a sugar phosphate backbone. That's important because you hear ribose in DNA, the sugar is the ribose. Now, you might be thinking that this sugar is exactly the same sugar that you have on your table when you eat cereal, maybe put a little sugar on it, or the sugar you find inside a muffin or a donut or a good piece of chocolate cake. It's not the same. In chemistry, there are many different types of sugars, and the sugar you eat, like sucrose and fructose and all that kind of stuff, is very different than this ribose. But really what you need to know is that sugars have this sort of crystalline structure to them. If you look at table sugar, you'll see that crystalline structure. And it just so happens that the DNA sugar ribose has a pentagon structure to it, okay? Now that's important. Now, one quick thing I'm going to mention, even though it's not as important to know until you're 18, 19, in college, doing things like that, is the phosphate right here attaches to the 5 corner of the ribose pentagon sugar, and the one below it attaches to the 3. So it goes 5, 3, 5, 3, all the way down. Why I'm telling you this is because when DNA is inside the cells, the nucleus of your cells, it has to wrap very tightly. DNA is quite small in theory, but if you unwrap a strand of DNA from a single strand from a nucleus, and you unravel it, it's almost 2 meters tall, which is almost 6 feet tall. So it's doing a very cool thing by being able to sort of twist and compact itself. So this step ladder structure that you're seeing of the DNA is unraveled DNA. When you ravel DNA, it doesn't come together like this. What it does is it's in a double helical strand, so it kind of does this kind of motion. With this strand of DNA, I'll show you that at the end. But it's doing this kind of thing here. So the reason I mentioned the 5-3 points is on this side of the DNA, it's going 5-3 down. On this side, it's going 5-3 up, so that when they start to do this, they connect properly. So that's the point of me mentioning that. Now, what are these beads? These beads are very, very important. They represent the base pairs of DNA. The orange one right here is adenine. The purple one right here is thymine. The black one is cytosine, and the green one is guanine. All those base pairs, how they pair up and how they descend or ascend along the strand is what gives you particular traits. It's what gives you your genetic code. So this right here, I have no idea what it means. I just put some base pairs together. I just wanted you to see how they match up. But you will notice the orange and the purple, no matter which side they are on, they always match up, and the black and green always match up. So adenine always matches up to thymine, cytosine always matches up to guanine. That's important to know. And just those 4 base pairs, billions of them in a strand, make you you. So you're very lucky to have DNA. Now, what does this dashed line represent? Well, that dashed line represents the hydrogen bonds between this base and this base over here. And that's what that represents. When you're done, just diagram it like I did, and you have a pretty cool DNA model. Okay? It's important to make models. Models are what help us to understand things that we cannot necessarily see. Now, this one right here is just a little bit fancier one. But don't be intimidated by it. These pop beads that we have, they're easily found on the interwebs. You can find them anywhere on the internet. Very easy. One thing I want you to understand though is just like this one, I did the same exact thing. The pink bead is a phosphate. The white bead is a sugar. The base pairs connect to the sugars, and again, every time you see green, it's going to be based with the red. Every time you see purple, it's going to be based with the yellow. And I didn't really decide which one is going to be which, so we'll just call this adenine thymine, and we'll call this cytosine guanine. Okay? Now, when you make a particularly long strand like this one, you can do something cool with it. You can take it from the bottom and you can twist it so you can see that double helical strand. And you can keep twisting it and you can see how it gets very packed up and very tight. And that is how this DNA is able to fit inside the nucleus of your cells. And it's just really fun and relaxing to make a pop bead DNA strand. So I encourage you to do it. Now, how was DNA discovered? Well, it took a lot of people to figure it out. But typically the structure is credited to 2 scientists known as Watson and Crick. But I am not going to give them all the credit. They had an English scientist by the name of Rosalind Franklin who did all of the dirty work. She looked through the microscope. She discovered what it was looking like. She consulted them, took notes, told them, hey, I think we're getting closer. What do you think? And then they would say like, oh yeah, maybe do this, and do that. But Rosalind Franklin, she needs to be right up there with Watson and Crick on who discovered DNA. So that's an important fact for you all to know. With that, I do ask you to do a few things for me. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button so that you can see all the fun videos that we have to offer. We have story times. We have Mr. O's Oh Wow moments. We have songs from our Tater Tots band and a lot more science. Also, if you are on social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you make a DNA strand like this one, or like this one, or one that you make out of marshmallows and spaghetti, go ahead and take a picture of that and let us see it. We want to see what you're doing after you watch these videos. And then you'll become an Instagram star or an influencer or whatever they call those things these days. I'm going to say goodbye for now, but I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope to see you soon. See you later.